Mark, welcome back. 38, 39 days? I don't count.
Day 39.
Day 39. Still alive. Life without sport. Is there any point?
Yes, there's always a point. Hey? We breathe in, we live in. And my goodness, haven't we caught up on yesteryear and yesterday and 1800s, 1900s? I don't know if I can watch any more reruns.
If I see another repeat of the Great '98 or the Great '95 or the whatever, I'm gonna have a nervous breakdown.
I've even been tested on the Great 2019. I mean, I love that Chess and Colby try, but how many more times?
Yeah. So we wake up this morning to fake news from Media 24. It doesn't surprise me. They just reposted fake news from the Daily Mail, saying the Lions tour is cancelled. Is the Lions tour cancelled, Mark?
No, the Lions tour is not cancelled. If at worst it may be put out by 3 or 4 weeks, depending on what World Rugby decides. On May the 10th, I believe, they're going to announce an adjusted season based on what each government is telling their sporting bodies. I know in South Africa, they're trying as hard to get some form of rugby being played by July, even if it's behind doors, but they'll always align with what the government is saying, as are the other countries.
And we'll talk about whether there's going to be any rugby here.
But the Lions, the second biggest thing after Rugby World Cup, it will never not take place.
Yeah.
The pandemic and the recovery to the pandemic will determine whether it starts on the 3rd of July or potentially a little bit later in the season.
Yeah.
But definitely will go on. It will be the 8 matches, 3 test matches. And the Lions, something, and we spoke just briefly about the elections, both Peugeot and Beaumont were big on, that the Lions have to maintain a strong presence in world rugby. It will be the biggest event in South Africa, and it's going to be the cash cow that South African rugby needs, that the Lions, and by way of that I mean the 4 home unions that represent the Lions, also need. So a lot of fake news being put out, a lot of shock horror being put out at the moment, and a lot of news organizations just taking the bait, of someone says something because no one wants to be second with the news. And I think the key is, and we've spoken about it a lot, is just trying to be a bit more accurate with the news.
Yeah.
But then also you don't put it out there and people you miss the story, so it's like put it out there with the acknowledgement this could potentially be fake news.
Did SARugbymag put it out?
No, they didn't put it out. They kind of just waited to get some formal comment on that. And,
That's good.
So they've learned from their boss and what to do. So Lions will go ahead, and it's all systems go on that front. And I think people are just operating very much in a vacuum at the moment.
Yeah.
So much going on behind the scenes of seasons being adjusted, things being done, and being done particularly well by all the rugby playing nations.
Yeah.
But there's very little they can give the public or give the rugby media, because they can't give you a guarantee until the government says you're back on a level 1 or the borders are open or you can play again.
So unequivocally, the Lions tour is taking place.
The Lions will roar in 2021.
How do people get tickets, Mark, for the Lions tour? There's a bit of confusion and a lot of people ask me that. And
well, if you go onto SARugbymag, you go onto Sport 24, you go onto the Lions official pages, you can register now.
Yeah.
The ballot was supposed to be launched in April. They've just delayed that, waiting on the pandemic, kind of on some clarity around that. But if you have to be registered to be in the ballot. So get your registration in now, and to kind of apply for tickets. And they're doing it. The ballot system is the way all big world sporting events are done as well, to ensure that there's a fairness in how the tickets are distributed. And one of the biggest things from a South African perspective is that I think 75% of the tickets will be locally sold, to try and ensure that home ground advantage is there for South Africa.
unless they're not.
Well, it's, there was a big thing about South Africans with a cricket tour,
Yeah.
to say, Newlands was packed with just English supporters. It's because South Africans were too late to wake up to actually go purchase the tickets.
Yeah.
So I think SARugbymag has been very insistent from the outset. This is a process. We're protecting the rights of South Africans. We want to make this a home series, but get off your arse and actually log on and just register and put yourself in the mix.
Yeah.
And as that wonderful joke when Jaime kept on praying for the lotto ticket, and then he got a response from the big guy to say, you got to buy a ticket to be...
You're going to meet me halfway, Jaime.
Yeah. You got to purchase one to get the big one.
Yeah.
To South African rugby supporters, and we've seen now with no rugby, it doesn't get bigger than the Lions outside of a World Cup final.
Yeah.
And start registering, put your name in the mix, and kind of make sure that I always say it's an army of green and not just a sea of red come next July.
I might be wearing red.